Welcome to New Friends Cinema,
where we get to know each other by sharing our favorite movies.
From childhood throwbacks to recent comforts, we walk through the stories together.
Keep in mind this podcast contains mad spoilers, and join us at the
New Friends Cinema.
Long Legs.
Oh, did you like it?
It's reviews about Long Legs.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen it?
No, but I watched a spoiler video, so I know the whole plot.
Okay. It's not like I didn't like it. It's not like I liked it. I was ambivalent about it because I just wasn't invested enough for it to end that way.
But you saw it in theaters twice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
the first time I watched it, it wasn't that scary, which is fine. Maybe I have a high horror tolerance.
But I heard that it was supposed to be very scary. Weren't you saying that the chick's heart rate was like through the roof?
The marketing was phenomenal. Will you see it?
If it comes on Netflix, I will.
That's the best way to measure whether or not will you spend money on it.
No. Yeah. If it comes on streaming, I definitely will. But
shall we? Or do you want another couple moments? I'm just excited.
I'm so scared. I've been really excited too.
Welcome.
I thought we were gonna. I know. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Welcome back to New Friends Cinema.
I'm Courtney.
And I'm Dakota.
Nailed it.
Wrong. Because honestly, when I listen to this, we sound identical.
Who knows? It's actually just one person in this room.
How fun would that be, though? The talent.
If I found out that you were in my head the whole time.
Stop it, because that's some interesting theories about this movie, which I'm so pumped to talk about today. But
I'm scared.
We have a fantastic film to walk you through today, folks.
This is one of the first you have a huge donut, Grandma. I thought you were going to comment on my boob sweat because it's there.
No, I mean,
no. This was one of, if not the first movie that we connected over.
Oh, top 5, baby.
So, I'm so excited.
So excited.
Yeah. And it's still, I've seen this movie, I can't tell you how many times. I screamed. I jumped. It's been a couple years, but also, cause Prob came home halfway through me watching it. I was watching it on my iPad. So I put my headphones on, noise canceling, and things change about halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
So I was on the couch next to him. He's watching fucking Yu-Gi-Oh on the TV or whatever. And I'm like jumping. Like I jumped probably 3 times. I was like,
so
just
good.
With the noise canceling, it was
you
so
have
scary.
surround sound, and you're there's something about the movie, you're dialed in. When we were watching this last night, Ty was like, normal movie rules stand, but scary movies mean I'm allowed to play on my phone. So even though while he was playing on his phone, he still jumped every single time that it was the fucking scary part. So
before you say it, I'm just gonna say, seriously, guys, this is a scary movie.
This is scary. And not like this is so mysterious and scary.
Not like
Secret Window
Jurassic Park. Not like Secret Window. Not like Sleepy Hollow.
No.
This is a fucking scary movie.
And I think I'll note this later on in some of my facts, but one of the top horror movies of the 2000s.
Okay, now say it.
Okay. This week we are watching and unpacking The Descent. 2005, I think it is.
I was shook when I saw that.
Yeah.
We're getting old.
2005, that's 20 years ago. Just shy.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's insane. And straight up, the graphics, we were chatting last night, so Ty and I were discussing whether or not, what would this movie be like if it was released now? And there's just something about the gritty nature of it, and to be fair, every dark movie is very difficult to see regardless of when it's made, because there's just something about
it being dark,
right? Like, I think it was 28 Days Later. There was just half of this movie is what the fuck is happening? It's too damn dark.
Yeah, for sure. This one I watched at night though. That one I watched during the day, which was a mistake. This one I waited until it got dark out.
And that gives more of the vibe, because this movie is darkness.
It's claustrophobic. It's, oh my god. But there are so many things about this movie. There are so many elements that make it stand out against so many other movies. It stands alone in a big way for many reasons, and there's just so many elements of it.
Proper horror elements. And to be fair, I think there are a lot of horror movies right now that rely on the graphics to make it scary, or
and that's something that I've always found very cheesy. Like
yes.
the part of why this movie is so great is because it does, like, it is in a way a monster movie.
Yes.
And it's a survival movie.
Yes.
Like a you know, expedition gone wrong kind of thing.
Yes.
And something about it that I think is so unique and so special and what makes it so great is that it doesn't even shift into a monster movie until we're almost an hour into this movie.
Exactly.
It is already so fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
Before we even realize that we're not alone down there.
Because it's the element of, are we alone down here? But also, this movie depends on the instinctual human fear of claustrophobia, what goes bump in the dark, basically. And, you know, there's a psychological component to this that really makes that horror and that dread build up to that point. Then when all of a sudden we see the I call them ghoulies in my write-up.
They're
when
called
we see
crawlers, I guess.
No, they are called
No,
crawlers.
I like that you call them ghoulies.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
on IMDb.
I did a lot of reading after I watched, and I learned that they were called crawlers.
Which makes sense because they're all up on that ceiling, crawling around.
Yeah.
Oh!
So yeah, one of the things though is that they don't give it away.
No.
And I always find, how I've always felt is like, what you can create in your mind is scarier than what anything that they could give you.
10 times
So
scarier.
by not giving it away for so long, it builds that anticipation and that fear so much more. Whereas with a lot of movies, they're giving it away. They're they're trying to do that shock factor of like,
right away.
Oh, look how fucking disgusting and terrifying this is or whatever. But it's like, well, now I know what I'm up against.
Yeah.
And I'm not scared.
Yeah.
Right?
The tidbits that the director really like laid out in the beginning, and it just kept getting more of a reveal, but not too much.
And there's a lot of shots too where you're kind of like, you're looking, you're searching. Do I see something?
Yes.
Right? Which
the hand subtly moves and you're like, oh God.
And another thing about it that makes it so real is that the director kept the cast away from the crawlers.
Yes.
For weeks in production. So the crew and stuff knew, and like people were talking about it.
Yep.
But the cast didn't know what they look like. And when we get the reveal, the screams are real.
Yes. They're so gross.
Yeah, that's just, can you imagine though, like and so one of them was saying in the interview, like, you know, we're actors, so we were on set feeling kind of scared because everyone's like talking about it and we don't know.
Yeah.
But we're like, we're gonna be fine. We're actors.
Yes,
we'll
this is
just
our
act.
job.
We'll act
Professional.
scared,
It's all
right?
fake.
And she said when that moment came and we saw it, we weren't acting, like all of that went away and it was so much
instinctually
scarier
human.
Which is, yeah. Anyway, I'm just like, I'm so excited. Like this is one where it's like we're pulling the plug and it's all draining. Like we've been holding off talking about this for 2 years. Yeah.
A very long time. Because one of our first conversations we've ever had with each other when we were meeting up, what are your movies? And this was something that you and I connected on because it's simple, it's deeply scary and uncomfortable, and really well done. Like that's a beautiful trifecta, in my opinion. Shall we get started?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay.
The Descent was made in 2005, which, like we said, wow, that was a long time ago. And the graphics are pretty great. A lot of the ghoulies or the crawlers are in like full head to toe makeup.
They have to be, these are athletes, right? They've got to be dancers or like something like that, right? When you see their bodies, like when they're really like, these are strong humans. Mostly men and women.
Yeah.
Like these are strong people.
Absolutely. And the way that the ghoulies or the crawlers, use this word interchangeably, the way they move in this movie gives me 28 Days Later, but like in a different way. The way that they have like their own like kind of like twitchy, like muscly kind of like movements. It, again, that like deep unpredictable nature of the bad guy and not knowing what they're going to do, not knowing all of a sudden what the fuck you're on the ceiling. Like that is so deeply scary.
Was something we were talking about last week with Carlotta. Sometimes it's fun to be volatile. It's just like, who knows what's going to happen.
You know what? I feel like I want to be on the ceiling.
I'm going to be on the roof. Yeah. I'm going to be right behind you.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah.
So this movie was written and directed by Neil Marshall, who also did a movie, Doomsday. Do you remember that movie?
It sounds familiar, but I don't know that
I recall really enjoying it. It's just a straight up dumb action movie, post-apocalyptic, but I wonder if it still holds up.
I think he also did a movie before that was about men and werewolves.
Were they called something dogs? Soldier dogs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hadn't seen it. Kind of curious now.
Yeah, I know.
So filming took place in the UK. And because the filmmakers considered it too dangerous and time-consuming, obviously, to go in the caves.
Can you imagine trying to? It's just
the liability waivers would be astronomical.
how are you getting the equipment in? Yeah,
they are on so the interior cave scenes were filmed on sets in London. So the descent opened in cinemas in the UK in July 2005 and premiered in the 2006 Sundance Film Festival in 2006. The film received positive reviews, praise for performances, cinematography, Marshall's direction, yada yada. And it was also a box office success, grossing 57.1 million worldwide with a small budget of £3.5.
This is a real fucking success story too, in that it's like they really he took so much inspiration. Like when you know what he was inspired by, you can really see it in there. Yeah. They were also competing against, I guess there was an American movie, I think it's called The Cave or something like that was a very similar vibe. Quote unquote similar, but not at all the same, right? That was supposed to be coming out, so they pushed up their release like 6 months so that they could be out in front of them.
Good idea.
Especially because this other movie had a fucking huge budget. And like all big stars and like Hollywood behind it.
You don't want to compare that.
Indie, so they were like, let's get out ahead of them. Yeah, and I think that's something about this movie too that just makes it so successful over when I say it's like they were the same but they're not the same at all, is because the way that they build the characters, the way that the cast is together, like they're it's so real and human. These are not characters.
No.
These are real women. And I think that that's something that a Hollywood scary monster movie or whatever could not recreate.
No, and they would turn it into a trope so fast. For sure. The movie opens with a rowdy group of gals, whitewater rafting on a river. And they are having a ball. They're screaming, they're laughing. It's very clear they know what they're doing. A small child and a man are waving from shore, and the kid yells like, "Oh, mommy, yeah." And so the women are screaming, the rapids are rapiding, and the ladies make it through to like that final waterfall, and they make it, and they're laughing, and it's just like exuberance, happy times, friends are friending. Like it's such a good time. They're living their best extreme sports life. The father and the daughter kind of like rush to shore and like help them get out. The little girl like runs to her mommy, who is Sarah, and I'll introduce her in a little bit. And the man immediately goes to someone else and like helps her out of the water. And the man and this woman, whose name is Juno, and I'll introduce her a little bit later, but they're giving eyes to each other. Immediately we're noticing, but isn't he with her? What is... And the third friend in the boat, whose name is Beth, and I'll introduce her later, clocks this.
Yeah.
Right? We don't have enough information at this point to like really get into it, other than the fact that like, what the fuck is going on here?
And it's like, it's just a little bit lingering. It's not even like it's like super overt, but it's like,
he helps take her helmet off, like that delicate little gesture.
A little intimate,
Yeah, really intimate, but maybe they're all friends. Not a big deal. But the eyes is like,
if my husband walked over to you and delicately unhooked your helmet
and gazed into my eyes,
ignored me, gazed into your eyes, I'm asking questions. Excuse me? He's nice, but that's something else.
No.
Yeah.
Me.
No, so. Undo my helmet.
Excuse me. Oh, I hate that. Okay, and so Juno and Beth say that they'll wrap some things up. They'll collect all the equipment. Sarah and your family, go ahead. You go ahead. We'll meet you at the hotel. So the little family is driving away, chit-chatting about weekend plans, birthday parties, etc. And there appears to be some tension in the air with the husband acting really coldly and like kind of like not flinching at her touch or flinching or in any means, but just like distant. And she even names it. He's like, you're being really distant. But unfortunately, the car kind of like veers off into the other lane at this point. He's
not even kind of looking at the road.
No,
like
he's
not
not
be paying less attention to what he's doing.
No, and in that process, some final destination shit happens. The two poles or metal piping, I suppose, from the car that was approaching them get launched into their car. And we get like some really graphic scenes. Obviously, the people
That's
are
something
dead.
that I wanted to address at the top of this, and I think we didn't talk about it beforehand, but I think we're both going to be on the same page.
Yes.
There is some very graphic shit in this movie.
Yes.
People die in this movie.
Yeah.
We are walking through the plot of this movie, but we're not going to go out of our way to describe the gore. That's not what we're here to do.
If you want that, go watch the movie.
Yeah, for sure. It's just, because I think we also have listeners that aren't horror people, and this is like I know I've heard from a listener before that we've covered movies that they were too scared to watch, and that they were able to listen and get the story of the movie and not be scared. So I think that even though this is a horror movie, we still want to maintain that integrity and not be too graphic, right?
Yeah, agreed. And
as much as we can though, but it is a very violent, scary movie. So it's gonna get scary.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to describe some shit at some points. Yeah.
It's horrific. In the process, we see this like horrific car accident. And then it fades and cuts away pretty quickly, and a fuzzy looking dreamlike image comes on the screen with a small girl blowing out a birthday cake candles with "Happy Birthday Jessica" written on it. And it's kind of like that fuzzy, blurry, can't quite make out the details, and she blows out the candles, and we're in a hospital room with Sarah. So the main character, Sarah, wakes up in the hospital with wounds all over, and, she does the worst thing ever, like our friend Cillian Murphy did. Just starts ripping out IVs.
I was like, this is the second movie in 2 seasons that you have chosen that basically starts with somebody waking up in a hospital and ripping out their
IVs. Yeah. Just disgusting. Don't do that. So she frantically searches the hospital for her kid, and some spooky ass like lighting situation happens in the hallway.
Yeah, she's tripping.
She's tripping balls. So she's out in this like hospital hallway, no one's to be seen, and the lights are doing that really spooky thing where they're like turning off in a distance and progressively getting closer. So she starts running and like trying to outrun the darkness.
And she's screaming for her daughter.
Yeah. And it's just horrific. And as the audience, we are like drastically kind of like shaken awake because that hallucination kind of breaks when she runs into her friend Beth, and she begins like sobbing. There's all these people in the hallway that just suddenly appear.
It was a full hallway, yeah.
Yeah.
And Beth is like holding her
as she's like, sobbing and telling her that her family died in the car accident. She's gone, Sarah. I'm so sorry. It's so sad. And we then kind of like flash to an aerial view of the Appalachian, depending on how you're saying it. So the Appalachian Mountains in the States, and it says 1 year later.
And the Appalachian area, the mountains, like they're very famous, I think, for like strange things happen there, like
missing people.
It's a kind of a spooky place. Like I've seen a lot of stuff online of people are like, don't call into the dark, don't go out in the dark in Appalachia, like close your.
People hear their name being
called to them.
Yeah,
I've heard, shit like that. So it's like, regardless of like what that is, it's like a very famously spooky, some strange things happen there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of unknown, because I wrote here, and these forests are thick. Like I know we live in the mountains, right? Obviously. So we have a very deep respect, I think, for the wild and what it means to get lost in the woods.
So
it's like,
easy. It's so quick.
It's so easy. It's so quick. You get turned around so fast. And that in itself is setting this, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. But like that sets the scene here, this Appalachian range of, this is dangerous. This is, you're walking into the great unknown. There are things in this forest, and it could be, wildlife. Sure. You're not as safe as maybe you think you are in this space.
Yes.
Oh, super spooky. A car is seen driving down a windy road in the middle of nowhere with our main character, Sarah, played by Shauna McDonald, and her bestie, Beth, played by Alex Reed. They drive into the Chattooga National Park, which is located in Tennessee. So Beth is telling Sarah that they don't have to do this. And you kind of get the vibe that this might just be Sarah's first kind of outing. They were adventure girlies before, right? And it's been a year of grief and trauma and processing of losing her entire world. And you kind of get this vibe of like, she wants to kind of try and kind of get back out there, get a little bit of familiarity of her life, be with her friends, do something fun. But she immediately goes, well, you tell Juno then that we're not going, because Juno is the one with the helmet from the beginning.
Yeah.
And somewhat of the leader, the organizer, the pusher, let's say, of doing these activities.
So I just want to touch on quickly, like, experiencing deep grief and deep loss. Like, a year is such a short time.
Yeah.
But there also is this element with it where it consumes you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're gonna have a day where you wake up and you go, I can't let this define who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like that kind of, okay, now
There's push.
right?
Yeah.
And, but also there's a lot of it's like with her friends and stuff, we'll see they're like, they're very gentle with her and she's like, I'm not broken. Like,
but fragile.
So there's, I feel like, I don't know, just like the year timeline and that kind of thing. And
it's a very interesting time.
Like,
of her,
of her
journey
cause it's
with
like, there is kind of I think it never gets necessarily easier, but there's like a veil gets lifted at some point and you go, hey, wait a second. I'm still alive.
Yes. The year of firsts is something that was introduced to me, but it's like the first year after losing something or having a pretty significant loss is like kind of working your way through these things the first time without those people or that person. And after that first year is done, you're like, holy shit, I made it through the first year. It was not easy. And like you said, a veil is lifted. I'm ready to create a new normal or create some kind of familiarity. I'm ready. Mm-hmm. And that's not the same for everyone's, but I think to a degree we can all relate to this idea of, you know, waking up a little bit and wanting to get back to something that made you happy before.
That doesn't center around this loss.
Yes. Yeah. Great point. So we get this very caring, loving relationship between Beth and Sarah.
Beth is a real one.
She's a real one. She stuck around. She was there. She knows what's going on for Sarah because she was there helping her through it. Like a really good person, good friend. Beth kind of has this edge about Juno. And she was the one who kind of clocked the helmet eyes at the beginning. And she is very, what I would say, fiercely protective of Sarah. And she kind of has some stuff that she's not saying about Juno right now. So they make it to the rendezvous point at a cabin. Juno, played by Natalie Mendoza, excitedly greets them and tells Sarah that a bunch of the other girls are inside waiting for them, and they're excited to see her. So Becca and Sam, who are sisters, are waiting inside, and all of the gals like hug and they're reunited and they're so happy that Sarah's there, and they kind of have these like miniature experiences of like, or smaller conversations of like, I'm so glad you're here, Sarah. It's so good to see you outside. I'm sorry I couldn't make it to the funeral. And Sarah's like, your letter was so lovely. Thank you. So these friendships go back a fair amount.
I think it's also they're international friends though.
Yeah.
Like Sarah's from Scotland.
Yeah.
I think the other girls sound like they're from like Norway or something. Like the sisters are not from Scotland, and then
Juno's American.
She's American. So it's like it doesn't seem like they're friends that are like they live in the same city. It's like these are like extreme adventure friends that would meet up maybe every 6 months or something somewhere in the world
and do some crazy shit.
And do crazy shit together, right?
We find out that Becca, played by Saskia Mulder, and her sister Sam, played by Mayanna Burning, are sisters, and Sarah is going to be a doctor. Isn't she planning, like...
You said Sarah. Becca or
Sam. See,
Sam is the younger sister, too.
Between her and Becca, yeah.
So Becca is the older sister, and she's protective of Sam.
Yeah.
She's, older sistering to Sam.
Oh,
Sam
older sistering, for sure.
Has a year left, I think, of school. She's going to be a doctor.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we get to see a dynamic between the two. Like you said, Becca is very mothering to Sam.
Yeah, just in that older, it's like similar to how
she reads the handbook. She's prepared.
Yeah,
she's looking out for her.
She
little
wants
sister.
to make sure that it's done safely and done correctly, and she understands that there's danger in these things. And
we're then introduced to Spitfire Holly, played by Nora Jane Noon, who's considered Juno's next protege, and she is giving energy like, I'm young, I'm alive, I'm gonna go fucking shoot for the moon.
She wants to go fast.
Yes. And extreme. And it's definitely like, I'm here to make a mark, and I want people to know that I'm really good at this, whatever it is.
And she seems like she's the youngest, right? Like she's very young.
Yeah. And so as they're kind of reuniting and kind of like chilling, having a couple beers, Sarah says to the group, love each day. And that's something Paul used to say. And they all cheers to that for their adventure and to love each day. Holly and Sam smoke a J outside on deck, and Holly complains that the trek they're about to do tomorrow is boring. It's like some tourist stuff. It should have a gift shop or something of how like easy it is. And Holly's super intense because she wants a challenge, which is totally fine, and I respect that because I know people out there who, like personally, who do this shit, right?
Yeah, but she is also inexperienced. Like, she's good at this stuff, but like, so she's more experienced than like me, but she's inexperienced in life
to know,
and she's so eager, and so she feels like she knows everything, she can handle anything, and there's that element of like naivety in nature and shit, like what we were just talking about. You understand that the woods are dangerous, like you understand that, and there's a disregard for that because she's young and she's invincible.
Dare I say, like, disrespect maybe too, like a disregard, but also like she's so brashly naive that she's gonna plow through and ask questions later, which is not a great technique for this type of shit.
So yeah, we were all young and invincible once, but most of us weren't cave diving.
No, whatever. So everyone's in their PJs, getting a wee bit drunk, and they make fun of Beth's matching PJs, which, what's wrong with matching PJs?
I sleep naked, so.
Oh. I have a PJ set. I am a PJ set kind of gal.
I do have a PJ set that my mom got me for, I think, Christmas or my birthday.
That's what Beth said.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But they're just like, they're the yellow ones. You've seen them, and they're so soft, and they're really breathable and cool.
Yeah. Don't you wear them like out?
No, no. But excuse me.
I thought you wear fashion. PJs are fashion.
Okay, no, but listen. Yeah. So the pants almost immediately started tearing. Like they're poorly made. Oh. So the seams. No, I still wear them. Okay. But the seams of the pants, front and back and sides, are like hanging on by a literal thread.
Ventilation.
So no, I don't wear them out because someone could see my asshole if I wore it out.
My God, she's so fashionable.
Oh. There's a bummely.
The night is winding down and everyone's in bed. Sarah's struggling to fall asleep, relate. And she gets to look outside, and this is somewhat of the relatable piece, is that, she's hearing giggling, and I had subtitles on so I could see Jessica giggling. So it's her daughter's giggling noise. And she's like staring out into the night in this cabin, and we're trying to like focus on what she's trying to focus on. And then a pipe comes through the window and, hits her. And she wakes up. So she's having these waking nightmares in a way, which is quite scary, because it's this feeling of like, what's real? I can't really trust what's going on. So Juno is a morning gal. She is out there, crack of fucking dawn.
This is what inspired me to go for my walk this morning. I was like, saw her. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Fully running. They're about to do a miles long.
Yeah. Trek.
Cave crawl, and she's just getting a casual run in.
Just get a run in, and I am not this person, but mad respect to these people. I see you. I cheer you on.
She's gonna live to be 130.
I know. And, we all have our own ways of treating our body well, and Juno is out there running. She's out there. So she is doing her thing, and the rest of the women are hungover as balls. And Juno, like a peppy little puppy, comes into each of the cabin rooms and is like, wakey, wakey, time to go. We're leaving at 7. And Beth's like hair is like on a side. That's us. And we're like, 10 more minutes, please. And Sarah quickly takes what appears to be some kind of medication, prescription meds. Maybe it's a form of antidepressant. Like that kind of makes sense given the context. They're all kind of like getting ready, getting their equipment, getting dressed, and they quickly take a group photo, and they're all cheerful, and that this is the last moment really that we get to see them this happy. And it's just the classic horror, trajectory. Yeah. Right? Oh yeah. The group drives through the winding back roads, and Sarah is fucking pedal to the metal booking it. And I always have these moments when someone's driving that recklessly. It's just like, there are other people in the car. Let's just tone it down a little bit. So part of me is thinking also that Sarah's not, she's like, I'm having fun. I'm the cool one. I'm not depressed. It feels like a bit of a show. So they have 2 cars. Sarah, Juno, and Beth are in one car. The sisters and Holly are in the other. So in the other car, Rebecca shares that the trek is only a level 2, nothing intense, and Holly's still quite displeased about this. In the other car, Beth is like, Juno, do you even know where we're going? And she says, I never get lost. So as they arrive, they park the cars, they grab their gear to go. We see that Juno fucking leaves the map book, which is also not only like a guide of how to, navigate the caves, but it's also like some safety pieces. Who are your safety people? Like, it's very common that when you go on these treks, you set up someone to come and get you if you don't arrive at a certain time.
Well, they did do that.
And we'll get back to that.
So, yeah. But Juno's got something to prove here, some kind of agenda. She's saying, I never get lost. But it's just like, oh, Juno's selfish is what you get from this moment, really.
Yes. I'm going to leave this book behind. And egotistical. I know I am so good at this, I don't even need the book. So the group reviews the rules of caving, what to do in the dark, but mostly to be mindful that when you're underground like this, panic attacks are common, hallucinations are common, paranoia is common. So let's just, again, take a quick mental note of all of that.
What a fun
day. Let's brunch and spelunk. That sounds so much fun. No. The group finds a dead elk. Gross.
That is such a classic, like, harbinger.
Yeah.
In like horror movies, the dead animal.
The dead animal. And then just leave it behind. It's not that big deal. It's like, no, that is an omen.
It's a sign.
Don't go. So Juno leads them to a dark hole in the ground, basically like a cave mouth.
It's a big old hole.
Big old hole, and it's deep.
Yeah.
The gals get their gear in order with ropes, helmets, harnesses, headlamps. Side note, ice axes. You don't need ice axes for spelunking.
Is that what those are?
Yes, those are for climbing ice. For some reason, but we have a reason later. Juno's like, see ya down there, and just like jumps in. She's like, peace. She rappels down into the cave mouth. The hole is actually pretty cool. It's beautiful. Like I would go in there. Like I would rappel down because I can see the fucking sky. Like that is number one prerequisite.
It's just like, also though, it's like, is it that? Because she's like, it's incredible down here. And it's like, is it? No, it's fucking not. Like, maybe I just don't get it.
Maybe you don't get it.
I'm not active enough. I don't know. But
that's fine.
Just like looking at that to me, I'm like, it's fine.
But
it's nice. It's not much different than it was up there.
Just darker. Yes, cave people are unique. We love you. We respect you, but we don't get you.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. The others rappel down easily enough.
For all of our spelunker listeners.
Shout out. So the others kind of like rappel down
the spelunking community.
Okay, sorry. Easily and safely, I might add. And Holly, my girl, just fucking because she's a base jumper too. So she is not afraid of heights. The others are rappelling like the way you're supposed to. And Holly just goes and hits the ground. Super dangerous. But again, I get it. Juno's not impressed though. She's like, Holly, rein it in. Okay? Mm-hmm. This is not the time. Mm-hmm. And so the cave
so you're gonna make me look bad in front of my friends.
Yeah.
There's that, cause she's brought her in, right?
Yeah, she's new. So. Dakota and I disagree. I think it's very beautiful down there.
It's beautiful, but it's not like,
do I need to see it that close?
No.
So it's open, which means that there is access to sunlight. So there's lots of like greenery still growing. There's lots of water. It's a beautiful ecosystem.
Random water dripping down onto their face.
It's beautiful. It's like, that is slimy and you know it.
Where is that from?
Where is that from? The elk is just like dying.
Right over there. It's the runoff.
Oh, please. Ugh, gross. And that's not even the most gross thing. That's the least gross thing about to happen.
Yeah.
So they're all kind of like looking around and having a good time. And Sarah goes off on her own, which is a fucking theme of this movie. Is that, where's Sarah? I don't know.
Didn't they also, either they just did or they're about to say like, okay, here's the rules. No, don't go off on your own.
Yes.
Number one, stick together.
So Sarah is exploring the cave walls and she finds a bloody handprint and like sticks her hand up to it and says nothing. Nothing. Not even like, hey guys, look at this.
That's weird.
Oh well. Juno says the only way out is down.
Which isn't true. It's also
up. Adoy. I'm not scared of most things. I feel like I have a lot of high tolerance for a lot of scary stuff. When I imagine being underground, and there's a scene later on that touches such a deep, deep part of my like loins in not a good way, where if I can't stretch my arms, I feel sick thinking about it.
Yeah.
Claustrophobia is a very common, normal, instinctual fear that us humans have because it's life-threatening. If you can't stretch and move,
oh gosh. No. And you hear, like, sometimes you hear, like, I don't know if you've ever heard of this one, but there's like, there was like a teenager that went missing 15 years ago or whatever. And like his body was found 10 years later in the chimney of an abandoned house.
No, baby.
Like when shit like that happens, or like when someone goes missing and it's like they fell behind their bookcase.
Oh god.
Have you heard of that shit? It's like, that's
terrifying.
So scary. So.
Because all you're doing there is sitting there waiting to die, which is horrific. Juno says the only way out is down. Yikes. They make their way through just immediately from the get-go, they find a very tight cave tunnel. No, I wrote. And they make their way through. They like shimmy. They've got all their equipment and their rope bags, and they find a very large cavern and light it up with the most spookiest color of all time. Just a flare gun red, which is so fun. And Sarah begins to explore again on her own.
The use of flares in this movie is really
it's brilliant.
Incredible, because it's like the only, aside from the headlamps and the narrow little bits of light that you get, the only illumination that you're getting is this like red.
Yeah.
Like,
and it creates these shadows that are like long, like elongated in an oblong and very spooky and scary. Which is, it tracks. It's a horror movie. And Sarah goes off to explore more by herself, and here's more giggling. Great! She investigates the giggling. Why? And as she's kind of like peering around these corners, by which did you see in the far left the first ghoulie? Oh, just straight from the get-go, we see in the distance.
But if you don't know what corner of the screen to look, like if you're not really looking, you won't see it. You don't see it. Because I haven't seen it every time.
No.
Sometimes I see it, sometimes I don't.
It looks human too because it's standing, but then it goes into this like really gross crouch, and you're like, that doesn't look like one of the girls from the party. No. And then Juno scares the shit out of her, being like, hey, let's go have lunch. Which is my favorite time of the day when we're out doing stuff.
Oh, lunchtime, picnic lunch on an activity. Yeah. That's something I loved about Europe, is like every hike, every like monument you go to or whatever, there's beer and like food at the end of it. So it's like the only way that I'm motivated to climb this mountain right now is because I know that there's gonna be a fucking ice cold crispy lager up there and like a sausage or like a pierogi or something, right?
So when we were trekking in Nepal, the strategic placement of samosa huts on the really intense verticals were insane. So you're walking up this massive like mountain essentially, and you're like, I don't think I can make it. And then you see in the distance this like lovely person being like, just like showing you the samosas, and you're like, I can do anything for those.
So that's something that Canada is just really lacking. Like, I feel like I would be so much more active if I knew that there was like food stalls at the top of the hike, of all the hikes.
Midway, quarter of a way, and they are cleaning up.
Yeah, and they can charge a premium.
Oh, samosa premiums. I would pay my left arm to have a samosa at a given time during a fucking trek. So as they eat lunch, Juno apologizes to Sarah for not staying around longer after the accident.
Sorry I took off immediately after.
Yeah, and Sarah is kind of perturbed about it. She doesn't really want, like, the thing about grief is you're going through it, and other people's relationship to that grief, it's with good intentions, I suppose, but it's not for you. It's for them.
It's like too much. It's just like,
is this the time?
Don't talk to me about this. Like, it's about Juno.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't, like, you being there, not being there, whatever. It's like, why do I fucking care?
Yeah.
Kind of thing, in a way.
Yeah,
like,
you ditched me, and that really hurt, and I don't need your apology now for it. It's like time and place. So she's obviously perturbed, and she's like, I'm fine.
Yeah, because it's also like, well, you had a year to apologize, too.
And
or could it come back and been, or you could have, like, there's so many other things.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's also like a casualness in it. Like,
yeah, like, hey, Sarah.
Oh, hey, while I'm thinking about it,
sorry,
by the way. And it's just like, yeah, it's gross, for sure.
And there's a fracture in this relationship. There's a mistrust. Mm-hmm. There is this hurt and pain that is not being fully expressed from Sarah, but, you know, she's already been through a fuck ton. She doesn't need Juno to add to that list. So she gets up, she's perturbed, she wants to explore some more to find the next way through, basically, which is interesting because it's like caving I have not done because of obvious reasons, but it's like even with the guidebook, there are perhaps various tunnels and various ways to like get to the exit. And you might have to find the one you want, but in the guidebook it says this is what you'll encounter if you choose 1 out of 3 or 2 out of the 3 here. So the whole like go find the next one kind of also is just like, shouldn't we be following the book? Let's just pause. Yeah. Where's the book? Rebecca's a little curious and concerned about this. Mm-hmm. She's the older sister, remember? So she is all about, you know, safety and the rules and knowing what to do and making sure that everyone's okay. And she's like, the way this is unfolding, this is not the way I read.
It's also just like, I think it's an older sister. I don't know if it's like if empathy is the right word, but it's like, she's also being the older sister, not only caring about herself in this group. Like everyone cares about each other, but when you're an older sister there with your little sister, it's to a degree that the other people don't care about you know what I mean?
It's
like,
intuition.
It's for her, and it's like, cause like with my little sister, I'm like, she's my child.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
well, it's a responsibility.
Yeah, a little bit more so than what maybe the other people would be experiencing. Cause it's like about me. Yeah, we're a team and we want to take care of each other. But when you have like your loved one there that you care for, like that, and you have cared for through life, it's on a higher level.
Absolutely.
Of like
importance, significance.
Yeah.
So Rebecca's questioning Juno, being like, I don't really know. This doesn't feel right. My intuition is telling me this is not correct. This isn't what I read in the book. And Juno brushes her off. Come on, Rebecca, we're having fun.
Are we? Is this fun?
Is this fun?
Eating a cold sandwich in the dark in a cave?
Ugh.
Damp. Ugh. Cave. Fucking deer runoff dripping down.
E. coli. So, Holly goes into, like, kind of like what I would imagine like a frenzy. She is like, I'll go! And she works her way into this small passageway that Sarah found. And, she has to like shuffle her body with her arms and forearms stuck to her chest. And at some point she has to go like underwater to make it through. Fuck no. This tunnel is tight, like really, really tight. Like her head is bonking on the ceiling and she's shuffling around. And this is not an accessible, you know, sport for many reasons, but you have to be a tiny ass human to make your way through this. And, the others one by one kind of like make their way through, and they're kind of like all struggling a little bit, but they're making their way. And Sarah is the last one to go through. Just as she's about to enter the mouth of the tunnel, she hears giggling again from behind her. But she just pushes on and she makes her way through. She's got this like big rope bag too. And Beth is just ahead of Sarah, yells after her, and it's like, hey, you're making your way through. But Sarah finds herself stuck. I get sick thinking about it right now.
It's so fucking scary. And she's fully like
face, I'm like smooshed, face smooshed, arms smooshed, and it's hyperventilation time, right? Because when your body, the amount of adrenaline that kicks in at this point of like, I'm not okay, I'm fucking stuck. So she starts to hyperventilate, and Beth is trying to coach her to breathe slowly because obviously the hyperventilating makes it worse. And Beth's like, don't worry, I'm coming back for you. That's the OG friend right there. That's Beth energy. That's Beth energy.
BBE.
And she makes her way, so she's face to face. Somehow she manages to turn herself around and like make her way back, and she like grabs her and is like, the worst thing has happened to you already. You're going to make it through this. And then she tells a funny joke. How do you make a lemon laugh? You tickle the citrus or something, which is hilarious. And Sarah kind of like breathes a little bit. Beth did an amazing job kind of like talking her down. And then as she's like getting herself unstuck, the roof starts to collapse of the tunnel. No. So Sarah reaches for the rope bag. The rock shifts above them. They have to make a split second decision, obviously for their lives. They leave the rope bag behind and they make a break for it. The scene is so intense. Dust is flying everywhere. And the others are like fucking freaking out, being like, get out, get out, get out. And then we get another fuzzy shot of the birthday cake scene as Sarah makes her way out. And then we're kind of like back in this smaller cavernous area, or like a little cave. Dust is flying, and they're kind of panicking because like, what do we do now?
They cannot go back.
They can't go back.
That is not an option.
Not an option anymore. And Rebecca notes that there's nothing to worry about because according to the guidebook, there are 3 different exits of the cave. Right, Juno? Everyone looks to Juno and asks her to check the book, but she did not bring the book. And it doesn't matter because they're not in the cave that she said that she was going to take them in. The level of fucking stupid. This is so reckless. This is so harmful. She like, basically killed her friends.
Do it by yourself then.
Yeah.
What? Like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not in the cave. Like, you know, it's dangerous already, even if you're in the place that you're set and ready to go and have the book. Like, there's already danger with that, with knowing the amount of information that you have. But now they're in a completely different cave system, which is murder. Like, in my opinion, like, you don't know if there's a way out. I thought we could explore it and find it. And I thought we could name it after you, Sarah. What? Like, it's so crazy. Fucking selfish.
The rage. I can't even imagine how, like, that, like, they trusted her. It's so reckless. And Beth too, or not Beth, Rebecca is like, I knew it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I fucking knew it. I should have trusted myself because I knew something was wrong.
That big sister gut energy, like, right? Ugh. And Rebecca says, this is not a cave, this is an ego trip. A new system. She says, I wanted all of us to discover it. No one's been here before. Great. That's so great. So, this is when Rebecca goes, oh, don't worry, or like before they find out it's a new cave, Rebecca says, oh, don't worry, we have, search and rescue set to come and get us if we don't, appear by a certain time. That's not the case because they're not in that system. So absolutely no one in the upside world knows where they are, what they're doing, and where they're going to be. So it's extra, extra dangerous now because they're alone. They're absolutely alone and abandoned. That feeling is so
and it's
gross.
Completely up to them to get themselves out. There's nobody coming for them.
And they're all pissed, naturally, because basically this could be a death sentence. And Beth is freaking out on Juno. Why did you bring Sarah down here of all places? She's fragile. And then Juno says, we all lost something in the crash, Beth.
I fucking hate Juno. Right now, I'm really hating Juno.
You can go fuck right off, Juno. So Sarah kind of goes off again, just like needs some space to breathe. And she sees something kind of like, huh? What was that? And I think this is the one where it was the hand moving out of cause when the flashlight went back, the hand was gone.
Yeah.
Oh boy. And so she kind of shakes it off and is like, oh, that's weird. I would have immediately been like, oh my God, you guys. But Sarah keeps it to herself.
Have to remember too, because when they were topside, they said paranoia, hallucination,
so you're second guessing,
are all things that can happen very easily down there.
Yeah.
So you were totally second guessing yourself because you know that that happens.
And the disorientation is normal, but I think Sarah also doesn't want to be the heavy weight that brings everybody down because she's been out of this for a year, because she, is going through it. She doesn't want to be a burden to other people, so she doesn't say anything. Mm-hmm. And she's second guessing. They have to push through, they have to find a way out, or they're dead. So they find another tunnel and start squeezing through just in time to find a crazy drop off. A flare is tossed down to see a crazy rock crevasse, and it goes very, very deep. Rebecca feels confident she can get across. But they lost the extra rope in that cave-in, when it collapsed. So she has to strong arm it basically from one ledge over the crevasse to the other ledge. And this looks so painfully and so terrible. Like, Ty climbs, so he's like, this is very, like, top tier climbers would have a hard time with this.
She's so fucking strong.
And she's got big sister energy. Look at, I'm getting us out of here.
Somebody has to do it, I'm fucking doing it.
Like,
it's like, I'm taking this into my hands now.
You fucked this up, Juno.
I let you lead us.
Yep.
And here we are. I'm fucking getting us out of here.
Take a seat, Juno. So they cheer her on, as Rebecca goes to see, like, one after another. She has these cams, which is basically the thing that gets stuck in an opening, like a crack, and it holds itself so she can then carabiner herself on with the rest of her rope and her harness. But then she goes to put in a cam, and then there appears to be this like old-timey, old-school one left over made out of iron. And she goes, huh? And everyone's like, what's going on? She's like, nothing, and like clips it in.
Just does it,
and just keeps going. She doesn't want to add fuel to the fire right now, so she's just like, nope, let's make our way through. So she makes it over. Hot damn Rebecca, big sister energy. Sarah asked Juno if this whole cave thing was about her or Juno's ego.
The way that this came out too, it was like a really good, it was like, cause Sarah is she's been very like pretty quiet and like really, but she's like, when she says this, it's like,
she's got a bit of fire.
Yeah.
She's like, is this about me or you?
Mm-hmm.
And Juno says she wanted for the group to, go back to the way things were. Sarah isn't buying it. This is all about Juno. Mm-hmm. So Juno decides to clear up the rope by herself. So at this point, everybody has made it through.
She has to do something, right?
And she's going above and beyond too, to like prove a point that she's not fucking useless, even despite the situation is her making. So, after everybody has made it through.
She's not useless. I mean, she fucking did a lot.
She did a fair amount. So as she's essentially doing the opposite of what Rebecca did, is like taking the cams out one by one. And then, in the process though, that iron old-timey one falls. Because why would you trust something that's been there for a fucking 100 years? Anyways, we make decisions as we do.
Well, I think also though that when she was going across, like when Rebecca was going across, like this actress, like the noises she was making, like this was so, she had to pull up every bit of strength that she had. So I think she saw it. She's like, I gotta use it. Using it because it's taking time and for her to put those things in. And it also was, it just sped it up to use it.
Split second decision. Yeah. It was in the perfect spot. Mm-hmm. But in the process though, as Juno was cleaning up the route, she falls. But fortunately, I think after the old timey, cam, there was another like modern cam holding her on. And so she falls and like bashes against the other ledge, the wall, and they pull her up. But in the process though, as she's falling, the rope burns on Rebecca's hands look horrifically painful. So bad. Really cut in there. Hands. Yeah. As they kind of like grab Juno up, they start like unpacking the fact that like they're not the first ones there. Someone has been here before. The equipment kind of appears to be like 100 years old, and they would have named the cave if they have gotten out, which is like a feeling. And they push forward with Holly in the lead. And they find these cave paintings, or these like pictographs, or not pictographs. What's the official term? I'm blanking on it. But essentially these cave paintings kind of like showing the area that they're in.
Well, yeah, but everyone's like, we gotta go, come on.
It's like cool.
No time to look at art. And then who is it? Was like, Beth. No. Beth is like, no, fucking look at it.
Yeah.
Look at what it's showing you.
And, she's like, we need a flare. And Juno's like, we're not wasting a flare on this. And she's like, trust me. Mm-hmm. So they light up a flare and they see, like, Beth's intuition or like instinct was like, oh, this looks familiar. So it appears on this pictograph area that there are two entrances, or like one exit, one entrance, vice versa, of the cave. So they came in one area, which means according to this picture, there is another one out. So that instills a little bit of hope. Mm-hmm. And Beth is like super chuffed about it too. She's like, see, I am fucking helping. Right. So as they make their way out of the room that they were in with the pictograph, or the wall painting, we get a proper close-up though of our other friend in the cave as a sloppy drool mouth silhouette of him just going, bleh. They don't see that though. They don't hear it. They don't see that. It's just kind of like in the distance a little bit as they're leaving that room.
I missed that.
Holly rushes her way.
So much of Holly fucking just barreling. And it's again, this is showing her naivety again, because it's like before she was like barreling forward to get a thrill, and now she's like not having control over herself, over her fear and stuff, and she's like barreling through now to like get out.
But like you said, it's her natural state to be brashly naive. Now let's throw a little bit of panic in there. Mm-hmm. And so Holly is running and zipping through, trying to find a way out. And she runs thinking that she sees daylight, and they're like, no, Holly, no. And Holly falls hard. So she's going down, she like falls into these tunnels. Cause I think what really encapsulates this fear of all of this cave system is that at any point in time, you might fall through a hole and you might not see it.
It also really distorts like what's up, what's down, what's like, it's
what's light, what's not.
There are times where you're like, is that up?
Yeah.
Like, is it, you just... Yeah.
It's very trippy, and she thinks she sees daylight, but it's actually like this phosphorus fungus that gives off this illumination, but she didn't get there to figure it out because she falls through a fucking hole, and she has a broken leg. And
God.
oh boy, so I broke my leg a little while ago, and fortunately, this situation did not happen. It stayed inside of my leg, but unfortunately for Holly, like, bone is protruding, and it's very, very painful.
It's really fucked.
It's really fucked. So
but it's like this feels really realistic too, because it's like, they're like, Holly, are you okay? And she's like, I think I hurt my leg. Right? Like, it's like how
still not clicking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to be fair, like, when I broke my leg, I was just like, oh fuck, I'm not okay. Like, that's not a good sound. And I think I relate to Holly in that way, because you don't really you don't have this like reality piece of what's happening.
That there's like shock involved.
Yeah, totally.
And like your body also has like systems set up to like protect you from like the actual levels of like pain and shit like that, right? So it's like a sensory thing where it's like something happens with the shock where you're like, you're not fully dialed into like the reality of how fucked this is.
Exactly.
Right. Because if you were,
and she starts freaking out, and my comment at this point was like, maybe don't go running around in a mysterious cave. Like that could be number one.
Valuable lesson.
A very valuable lesson that she unfortunately will not be able to, rectify. Spoiler alert. So Sam, so they all like find her, and she's like half in the water, right? Which is terrible. And Sam steps into gear, like doctor gear, and is like, okay, takes control of the situation. We need to get her out of the water. The group follows her orders, and Sarah hears giggling again. And as the group is like tending to, backcountry first aid Holly, Sarah again, like, falls away back from the group and finds herself alone once more, looking for the source of this giggling. And, Sarah is encountering like this other side room where there's like an old-timey helmet, like an old iron helmet. She hears something nearby, and so she gets out her flashlight, and like Dakota said earlier, like, we only really get like a cone of light. Everything else is dark, and so she's like moving around this cone to like trying to find the source of whatever she just heard. Oh, I have goosebumps, look.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
I am like lighting up here. She sees a creature, a humanoid-like creature, but it's pale, and it's got this like misshapen features on the face, and it like looks at her and then like ducks away really quickly. Oh, that's what I mean by like this very unpredictable, sketchy movements. Oh, so scary. And it's like drinking water, and it looks slimy. And then Juno scares the shit out of Sarah again. And it's like, Sarah's like, I saw something. And Juno, like, the cave does weird things to our perception, still kind of in this mindset of like, yada, 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 whatever. And, they all run back to the main group and says, I saw something here. And she's convinced that this is a man that maybe could help, because it looked humanoid, right?
Yeah, but it's like,
girl,
that thing, like, he was like on his haunches slurping water or whatever. It's like, no,
he's
not
gonna
help you.
The next person to help. I wrote LOL. The group gets a move on with Juno in the lead, with her trusty like lighter strategy. So she's got this like, lighter that she's like, bringing around, trying to find a cave entrance that gives off some kind of wind or some kind of gust of air, which indicates, fresh air and opening. So that's a pretty handy strategy. And they're at a point now of the cave where it's like there's just water now everywhere. And I just can't help but think in this moment of just like, how pruny are their feet right now? And like their hands, and I don't know, but prunesy feet are the worst because you get trench foot. It's just so awful. My sister did tree planting for like 2 weeks before she quit. And she said that like the trench foot is so bad where like layers of skin are like peeling off because it's pruned. Like it's so water saturated. It's
this
so
is the
gross.
least of their concerns right now.
Oh, it's number one for me right now. I'm like, but what about their feet?
Oh, yeah.
Ugh. So they kind of make their way to like a wall where they have to climb up, and it's kind of like a waterfall. Some water's coming down, more prune feet's happening. Juno like climbs up this wall and makes her way up while the others follow, and they're in a room full of skeletons. So that is not something you want to encounter. No biggie. And they get Holly to, super dark, so they get Holly to turn on her video camera, which she's been taking photos and videos up until this point. Well, you know, ever since they found out they're lost, she kind of tucked it away.
Yeah.
But it's got an infrared light setting, so they could look through the view camera, which is beautiful horror storytelling.
Yeah, because they bring in this element, this found footage kind of element.
Yes.
Right?
And they're looking through the cam, and it's like all of this like scary, kind of like green, black. You're so scary now. And it's like dead animals everywhere. And I don't know, man. Those animals are looking a little human. Like that spinal cord that's over there is not an elk.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And we get the camera to pan over because it's that like quick jostly movements, and the camera pans over, and this huge, tall, slimy, bat pale looking ghoulie thing crawler is like at least a foot taller than the person that's like in front.
Not quite.
Not quite. It looks big. But also maybe Sam was really small or whatever. But it looked really
Well, these are
looming.
tiny fit women.
Yeah.
And these are like big, strong, creepy cave ghoulies of the male looking variety.
Yeah, yeah.
This one is.
And
So it's just like, I don't know if a foot, but it's like, it is bigger. It's in all sizes. It's substantially bigger.
It's not ginormous,
but
it's looming. And it does the scream.
This is the part. So, this is the singular biggest jump, I would say, like, of the whole movie, because this is when you know for sure, because up until this point, all those times you said, where did you see that? Did you see that?
Yeah.
You could, watching this movie,
not
have seen any of those things yet.
No.
You could have missed them all.
Yeah.
So this is the first point where it's like, oh fuck, something's right there. And when I was watching, this is the part where I was like, because I had my noise canceling headphones on. I jumped then I made Prob jump. Like he got,
the domino effect of it.
This part is, it's just like, and it's like right behind her and through the viewfinder and shit.
So no one else sees it except the person with the camera. Right? So it screams, they scream, and we all scream for ice cream.
Yeah. Also to be saved to get out of here.
Oh my god. So, this thing moves fast. Like super fast, and he's not alone. Only by the light of one flare. And in this moment, the group of women break off into small groups because it's panic. You just bolt. Like the fight or flight kicks in, and your body chose flight, so you are running in the dark. One launches at Holly and Juno. Holly's like the weakest of the group, right? So by animal mentality, it kind of is like, oh, this is an easy prey, so it goes after her first. And Juno
probably smells her
blood, right? Yeah. And Juno's attempting to fight it off. It, really bites into Holly, a good chunk of her body, and Sarah's running full sprint with Beth close behind. But as Sarah's running away, Beth falls into a big water puddle, and in the process too, Sarah gets a little bit further ahead, but falls and down a long shaft, and her headlamp goes out. So she hits her head. So fractured. This entire group is split off in all of these different directions. Juno is fighting this thing off to take Holly's body back. But the other, ghoulie comes from behind, and, the amount of like writhing and wriggling and wrestling.
They're wrestling.
Yeah.
They're fully wrestling, because these guys are like throwing themselves. They're using their whole bodies. Yeah. They're very strong.
Yes.
At this point, I think Holly is deceased.
Yeah.
And Juno just doesn't want them to have her body, right? So she's kind of, but it's almost like an animal's fighting over the like the meal,
the dinner
kind of vibe.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like, right?
And they will do anything to get it. And it's not like Juno is fighting someone who's throwing haymakers. Like you said, they're chomping, they're throwing their body weight at her, and they're wrestling on the ground. And she managed to kill one with an ice axe, and she's riled up. Her body chose fight mode, whereas the others were run. Just in time for her to, unfortunately, instinctively swing around with the ice axe and make contact with Beth, because Beth turned back because she couldn't find Sarah.
And you kind of, because it's like kind of weirdly quiet too, like there's a lot of grunting and stuff, so it's like she's super jacked up, she got one of them, I think the other one took off, and then she hears something racing up behind her, and we hear that, so we don't even know, we're like, oh fuck, there's another one coming. She whips around, she gets Beth with her ice pick, or whatever it is, and they're just standing face to face, and she got her like in the neck, so she can't like,
and it's that eye contact that you just mentioned is just that sudden realization, Juno realizing what she's done, Beth realizing what the fuck just happened, and they're both in shock. But again, Juno backs up and leaves Beth to die alone.
She literally like slowly backs into the darkness
and like leaves Beth to collapse and die, which is just fucking Juno.
And it's so, because it's like, I guess it's different because she did it. So she doesn't want to like it's like, well, Beth has to die now so that everybody doesn't know that I killed her.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas with Holly, she's like, no, her bot, I have to save.
Right? It's a beautiful, beautiful snapshot of what it means for Juno to be accountable. Again, she just does not take accountability for anything that she does in the cave and outside of the cave, and leaves her to die alone. That's really cool of you, Juno. That's awesome. So the sisters, Rebecca and Sam, are now...
Yeah, because
go ahead.
Also Beth didn't die.
No. We think she did, though.
No, but it's like, in that moment, she's not dead. She left her to slowly die.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, that's so fucked up.
Totally. And there's not even like an ounce of like, let me try and like take away the pain.
No.
Let me try and be with you while you die.
There's like that long eye contact.
And then that slow fade.
Yeah.
Like, I'm backing away.
She's like,
you didn't see anything.
So fucked.
So, the sisters, Rebecca and Sam, are separate from the others and are freaking out, rightfully so. And Rebecca leads them out with one of those giant green glow sticks, which just, it's not a flare, but it gives the same energy of the flare. It's just green this time with like long casting shadows, and she's illuminating their way, but they don't see that they're being tracked by a ghoulie at this point because they are silent. They are so quiet. The next little bit is kind of split between three main groups, so I'll do my best to kind of like summarize as much as I can because it does flash between the different separated parties. So Sarah's on her own, Juno's on her own, and the sisters are trying to make their way out together. We get a very similar scary dream sequence of Sarah's kid Jessica at that birthday. It's not a cake situation, but Jessica's kind of like in this darkness facing the other way. Sarah reaches out to grab her, and as Jessica turns around, it turns or like transforms into a ghoulie and go, and she wakes up again. Terrible nightmares. To just wake up and find out you're in another nightmare. That's great. So she sees that, she has the camera from before they all split up, and she turns it on and to see that she is in this like room of corpses, carcasses, body parts, skeletons. There's like old school equipment still there, and she hears something approaching, so she quickly like tucks herself into towards the wall or like a crack of the wall, and she's using the camera to see that it's Holly's body that got dropped into this like feeding den, which is really what it is. Meat's back on the menu, boys. Very much a vibe. And she has to like stay super, super quiet while the ghoulies like eat Holly in front of her, which is just horrific. And she's trying not to puke, and she makes some like gaggy noises. And through the camera, we see one of them like whip its head around and go, rah, but doesn't see her. It only turned around when it heard her.
Which is great because at first you're kind of thinking, oh fuck, like, cause it's dark, like they can see in the dark. So it's like, thank God at least they can't see.
Yes.
Like we're like on an even playing field in that one
right in this
sense.
moment. Yeah.
Where Neither of us can see.
Neither of us can see here, but I'm not going to make any noise because they responded to her gaggy noises.
Because they have, like, bat-like ears.
Yeah.
So we're finding that they echolocate.
Yes, because they also click and, like, do that, like,
mouth open, like,
yeah, like, kind of thing. Yeah. Juno yells from above for Sarah, which takes the ghoulies away from Sarah. And they run off.
The amount that Juno's fucking just shouting and screaming in this cave.
Yeah,
like...
actually, so the sisters are making way through the cave system with the creepy green light and hear the ghoulies coming. So they also tuck themselves into a ledge and they hear Juno yelling and she's like, she's going to bring all of the damn ghoulies on her if she keeps yelling like that because they are picking up on they're attracted to sound. Because as they lay silently dead still, a ghoulie like walks over top of them and doesn't notice them at all.
Yeah.
Ugh, gross. Unfortunately though, as the ghoulie like makes its way, they think they're free, and then Sam's like super intense watch.
And when they were in the car at the beginning, she was trying to program her watch.
To make it work, but it was like being super finicky, and it goes off, and it's like, blee, 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 blee. She quickly like takes off
and it starts running back to like running over to the sound, and she's like, trying to
getting the watch off, and she chucks it further enough away. But now cut to Juno stumbling around and screaming for the others. She finds these chalk arrows on the wall, which is a very startling thing to see in a cave that you think no one's been there before. And that's very human. The ghoulies aren't doing this. Like, they're not the ones that are drawing arrows on the wall. She narrowly misses running into a ghoulie. Flashback to Sarah making her way out of the feeding den to find an old lantern, as well as taking what she can from Holly to like make use of some of the equipment that she has, which is super grim. But she MacGyvers this like torch, grabs the ice axe that was being used as a splint for Holly's leg. So she's geared up now. So she has a light source to make her way out and a weapon. And we're rooting for her. We're like, you can do it, girl. Make your way out of this.
Yeah, she fully, I mean, not 100% yet, I guess, but like, Sarah really, really calcifies here.
Oh, she zones in.
Her determination is just, everything else gets shut off.
Yeah.
And she's just doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that scene where Cillian Murphy's character kind of goes into that like stealthy berserker mode, where playing to your strengths, realizing that this is the situation I'm in, I've got to get out, and all of a sudden you're kind of on this like one track mind, which simplifies things, right?
It also she always kind of reminds me of like Uma Thurman, Kill Bill.
Yeah.
Right?
Resourceful.
Yeah.
You know.
Kind of looks like her too.
Yeah, the blonde hair. But at this point too, like Sarah is covered in her own blood, Holly's blood, everybody's not looking great.
Cave slime.
Yeah. Blech. Okay, so the sisters sneak their way through these windy corridors, but a ghoulie like falls from the ceiling to attack Rebecca. And then as like the scuffle is happening, Juno comes out of nowhere and hacks the ghoulie away and like straight up snaps his neck, which is such an intimate way of killing someone. And they're kind of in shock because they're like, holy shit, Juno, like you came out of nowhere.
There's also a bit, because Juno and Sarah both really dial in.
Mm-hmm.
But differently. And it's like, Juno was waiting for the opportunity to kill.
Do this.
Yeah. In a way, it's like, wow, she's extremely good at that.
Wow. She doesn't really think about, and again, the fight response is not carrying here, but it works for her, which is concerning. Juno. So the ghoulies took Holly. Beth's quote dead. It's, Juno's kind of making it seem like the ghoulies killed Beth.
Yeah, they're like, Beth, you know, and she's like, they took Holly. Beth's dead. Eyes, shifty eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's not technically lying.
She didn't say, she just says Beth's.
Yeah, so
didn't make it.
At this point, Juno's like, Sam, what are we dealing with here? And as the doctor or anyone who has like any idea of what's going on with this like creature, Sam examines the dead ghoulie in front of them. The body looks human, but they're totally blind. They use sound to hunt like a bat. They have evolved to live perfectly in the dark. They go to the surface to hunt, which means they're quiet enough. They can find a way. If the girls are quiet enough, they could make their way out because they got to get out of here somehow to get their elk dinner. I'm assuming. But Juno's like, I'm not leaving without Sarah. And this is like a coded heroic thing, but it's like this woman is guilty and she's using her heroicism to mask the fact that she's guilty.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck Juno. Okay, so Sarah is now making her way through the feeding den and finds Beth. Oh, poor Beth. I wrote poor Beth. Beth like quickly tells Sarah that Juno was the one that did this to her and to not trust her. Find your own way out. And you know, Sarah's like frantically trying to pull her BFF out of there.
Not just that she did it to her, that she left her.
Yeah, she did this to me and left me like this.
Yeah.
She left me to die.
Mm-hmm.
Not only die, but to be eaten, which is just, she went out of her way to get Holly, but screw Beth. Yeah. Whatever. She tries to pull Beth up, but something slips out of her hand, and it's Juno's necklace, because as Beth was going down, she grabs at Juno, pulls her necklace down, and throughout the entire movie, we see Juno, like, kissing the necklace, holding it, playing with it. It's like it's an important piece of jewelry for her. And Sarah looks at this necklace and goes, oh, this is Juno's. And she wipes off the blood from behind this, like, feather, I think it is.
It's fucking ugly, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, and it's got an inscription on the back that says, love each day. Oh, woof, that's rough. So in this moment, Sarah realizes that Juno and Paul were having an affair.
That's Beth's final gift to her, too,
yeah,
right?
The
like,
truth.
The
truth. And you see in this exchange between Beth and Sarah at this moment that Beth knew all along, or had suspicions at least, but that's a really tough thing to tell a friend in a year of grieving, that you were expecting your other best friend having an affair with the husband. Like that's something that you have to make a decision as to whether or not to say, because that changes the grief journey for sure.
Yeah. It's like already so fucking complicated, and
yeah.
then throw that on top, and it's like, yeah, and the thing is too, like, any person that passes away, every person, like, nobody is perfect.
No one is perfect.
No one's a saint, but
that changes
yeah,
her connection to Paul. It changes her connection to her own grief. And you could see the pain in Beth's eyes for not only like dying, but the emotional pain that she feels for her best friend. Even in her dying breath, she is prioritizing her best friend, which is like,
we love Beth.
Fuck Beth, you are amazing. Not fuck Juno. Like, there's fuck Juno, and then there's like, fuck Beth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So Beth like begs Sarah to kill her, which is that's a horrific thing to
and
ask.
Sarah's like, no, I can't.
can't.
Well, okay, sure.
I can't. Okay.
Yeah.
So Beth is in so much pain, and she needs
it's
to
like,
go.
I'm gonna lie here and bleed out, and those things are gonna come back, and I would rather just die than be like eaten alive
and die by
whatever
her hands.
Yeah, than like in this very like I don't want to say like sacrilegious, but like very like
pretty close.
It's
what is dehumanizing.
Yeah, and what's the word that I'm thinking of? It's not sacrilegious, but it's like exactly against nature
and against her. It's like, yeah, it's like she wants to die on her terms by her best friend's hands, because then she can go with peace as much as possible. So I wrote freaking awful, and Sarah's not okay because she found out some horrific things about her, her husband. She found out she had to do a horrific thing and kill her best friend. So she's having a moment, but a child ghoulie crawler comes out of nowhere from behind, and Sarah skillfully beats the shit out of it. And
she needed that.
She really needed this win.
Yeah.
And if it had to be a smaller version of the big bad, that's fine. But then a mother ghoulie kind of like chases after her. It's like, you killed the baby.
So that's the lady one with the hair.
Yeah,
it's
and
so
the titties.
Fucking hilarious to me that these things have evolved so much, but that the female ones still have beautiful heads of hair.
Just in case.
All the man ones completely hairless.
Like head to toe.
No, head to toe hairless. And the woman one has this like
fresh cut, like lob blonde.
Just
bob?
Yeah, like medium length, just a little bit lower than the shoulder.
Yeah.
Brown.
It's like, we need some way to differentiate these guys.
Like, I don't know. I just really thought about that this time. I was like, that's fucking hilarious. That she's got a full head of hair.
Wouldn't the titties be enough? Like, I don't know. Anyways. And the mother ghoulie, the mother crawler, goes feral because it's like, you killed my baby, and attacks Sarah. So Sarah's like running and fighting and running and manages to like fall into this giant blood puddle, I'm assuming. And this scene where she like stays under and you see a little bubble, and then just the top of her crown of the head coming out, and then the forehead and her eyes just like, and her nose, and she's stealthily trying to get out of there.
It's Carrie Tomb Raider.
Oh my god, I wrote Sarah is rocking some sweet Stephen King Carrie vibes right now, like literally in my notes. So she is head to toe covered in blood, and she like tries to make her way out of the blood puddle really smoothly because she doesn't want to make any noise. But the ghoulie was in the water with her
just
the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh!
And she attacks her, and then there's a fight. Yeah.
So, Sarah stabs the mother ghoulie with some random bone and like kills her and pulls her out of the water, but quickly freezes on this like slab as she's about to grab her torch, because a ghoulie comes from the other direction, and because Sarah's frozen, the dum-dum like walks right over top of her.
And like tactile though, like he couldn't feel that it was different.
Right? But
He's
I'm
like,
imagining it's very slimy.
He's like standing on her head.
And I wrote, Sarah rolled a nat 20 on stealth. Yeah. Because for real though,
she's just like laying there, it's standing,
yeah.
It's like hand is on her face.
Yeah. And she's like, oh. But then she clobbers it, and she's got the torch in one hand, the ice axe in the other, covered in blood, Carrie style.
She's
and
God tier now, right?
God tier, S tier for sure. And we flash back to the sisters and Juno, who are like, they're trying to be like super quiet, but they're frantically trying to find, and Juno shares that she found arrows. So Sam is freaking out, and having a bit of a panic, and she's running ahead while Juno, kind of falls back and like turns the flashlight to see that dozens of ghoulies are following them.
There's a fuckload.
They're on the ceiling, they're on the walls, they're on the ground. This is bad. So because Sam was so far ahead, she finds another very deep crevasse where there's like two ledges and then a drop in between. And so she quickly makes a split-second decision to do the same thing as Rebecca did, and do the climbing thing.
Is really fucking
so sad.
Ugh.
So by the time she's like midway through on the ceiling, the others catch up and say, you can turn around. You don't have enough rope. Make your way back now.
And she's panicking. She's crying. Her
hands are bleeding.
Fucked up. And she's like kind of halfway and realizing like really it was like a panic thing that was driving her forward. And now she's like, I'm fucked. Like
And you know, she's harnessed up. She's trying to do the same thing. The others are on the far end where she came from, yelling at her to come back. And then we have this like very scary upside down shot of the camera of her dangling from the ceiling, but then the point of view of a ghoulie on top of the ceiling staring at her. And she like screams and tries to like fight it. And in the process, the ghoulie like kills her, unfortunately, and in a really truly graphic way that I'm not going to get into. Like we said earlier, we don't need to describe this.
No.
But Rebecca just watches this whole thing happen, watch her sister die in front of her that way, is horrific. And in the process of watching this, a ghoulie grabs Rebecca from behind
and drags her
down, and then just begins to eat her. But
and when Sam managed to maim that one that killed her, and it fell.
Yes, good point.
And then when it fell, then she kind of fell, and she's passed.
Yeah.
Rebecca right away gets dragged away.
And being eaten alive is just awful. Juno, again, just runs away. Doesn't try to save Rebecca at all. Like, she was right behind you and you didn't even bother to try. Fuck Juno. So instead of trying to
because it's like, I think the thing too, because it's like, yeah, save yourself, get the fuck out of there. But how she really, really picks and chooses where she asserts her, or like, in a way that if it'll make her look good, then she'll go out of her way.
If it'll help her, then she'll go out of her way.
Yeah. So there's kind of that where it's like, well, if it were anyone and she ignored it, like, then that's fine, but it's like, it's not.
It's like, this is the fourth time or something dumb that she's done this, and it's like, oh, there's the pattern. Yes, you are selfish. You're only we don't need to get into the Juno hate club, but I think it's pretty evident what we feel. So, like Dakota said, The maimed ghoulie crawler had fallen down in between, and between the two ledges down below, I have a feeling it's not as far as the other one, and there's water at the bottom.
Yeah.
And so Juno just jumps into the water, and in the process, she meets the ghoulie in the water and then kills it.
This part is actually kind of funny. It's like...
Go ahead.
No. Just that, like, yeah, she goes down and it's, like, floating under there. And then it, like, wakes up. And it's like, ah! And then she, like, yeah.
So she swims to the other side of the crevasse and begins to climb up the side to get to the ledge that Sam was headed towards. And as she's about to, like, fall off, Sarah, like, grabs her frantically, pulls her up, and she's got these eyes, right? The Sarah eyes now at this point. And Sarah sees Sam on the ceiling, clocks her as dead, asks Juno, where's Rebecca? And she says dead. And she goes, and Beth? And Juno looks away, doesn't make eye contact. She didn't make it. Asks her if she saw Beth die. Juno nods. Liar. Sarah doesn't say anything though. She has this moment where she sees Juno for exactly who she is. She's lost everything Sarah's lost everything and everyone and everything at this point. And she's so silent at this point that she's dialed in, but she's not okay. But there's clarity there. She's like, okay, thank you for showing me who you are. So Sarah has her makeshift torch. Juno has a flare. They follow the arrows backwards to find the entrance that the miners or the explorers came in from a long time ago. They run to a small group of 3 ghoulies, and there's this, like, showdown, this, like, final showdown. And these women are, like, leveled up at this point that they are just taking them out. And Sarah just bites the nose or the ear off of one of them, just, like, feral style. Again, who's the real monster? And they
I was going to say this meeting of them in the end, it's very similar to... completely different, but similar to in 28 Days Later when Killian comes back in to save the girls, and what was her name again? Selena. And Selena has that moment of like, oh fuck, have you changed kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like
very similar.
Very classic horror shit, right?
Absolutely. The happy-go-lucky Sarah is not here right now. The one who's going to survive this death cave is. So they managed to kill all 3 of them. And Sarah and Juno have this, like, showdown where they're both staring at each other. They hear ghoulies coming from behind. And it kind of looks like there's the way out behind Sarah. So in this process, in this, like, super intense eye contact, Sarah releases the necklace from her hand and it's dangling there, the one that Paul gave Juno. Juno sees that Sarah finally knows the dark secret, and you can see kind of like tears bubbling up in her eyes of like, oh no, I'm so sorry, Sarah, I didn't mean for this to happen. None of this is being said, but it's all in the look, right?
You didn't see, but I just rolled my eyes.
Yeah.
Very hard.
Yeah. They hear more coming.
I mean, you saw it.
Yeah. Sarah takes her axe and swings at Juno's leg, and it makes impact, and they look at each other, and Sarah bolts. Basically like, fuck you. Cold revenge. She walks off, leaving Juno wounded with the horde of the ghoulie crawlers coming at them. Dozens. We don't see it happen, but from Sarah's point of view, she's running the other direction, and we hear Juno yelling and screaming for Sarah, and then no more yelling. Yep, she gone, I wrote. So Sarah falls down another shaft, but actually finds daylight where she lands. And this is a different kind of daylight, than the daylight that Holly thought she saw.
Cause it's real?
Cause it's real. So Sarah has to claw her way up a mountain of skeletons to make it to this, like, opening with the daylight.
This part always reminds me of, in Thumbelina, when, do you remember that movie?
Yeah.
When
Thumbelina.
she goes underground with the mouse, and the mouse is trying to get her to marry the mole, and then she's running away, and she has to claw her way up this mountain of treasure to get to the sunlight. She sees the sun. It's like almost exactly the same scene.
It is. Except we don't have dearie, marry the mole in the background. But there are mole people-ish. Ghoulie. Anyway. So she has to claw her way up a mountain of skeletons to get to the light above. This iconic scene is so great when she breaks out from the underground and you see her hands go poof from the outside view, and viscerally take a deep breath with Sarah to get that fresh air for the first time since she started.
Yeah.
And she's like sprinting through the woods, sobbing uncontrollably. And she like somehow makes her way down, finds the river and makes her way down the river again. Nature's direction helper if you ever need that. But she makes it to the cars, gets in and begins to like book it faster than she came, right? You know,
she's doing jumps.
Yeah, like
she's going, she's driving
real fast and real recklessly, but in a different way than she was driving recklessly before. She books it out of the woods. She makes it to a road. And she slams the brakes and pulls over to have like a full on like sobbing moment of just like, I'm out, but holy fuck what just happened. And, she rolls down the window to puke her guts out naturally, and then turns back into the car to find dead Juno there staring at her. And the movie cuts to black. The end.
So there's 2 endings to this movie. That's the American ending, the North American ending.
Yeah.
The original ending is that after that, she snaps, because that's not the ending I watched yesterday.
What?
Yeah. So she sees dead Juno, it snaps, and she wakes up and she's in the cave.
Right. I have seen that one.
Yeah.
This is a different one. So she's back in the cave.
Yeah. So when it was released for North America, because people in the UK, I guess, hated the ending. And so for the North American release, they just cut that last 30 seconds or whatever so that she escapes. And a lot of talk online is like, one's the happy ending, one's the sad ending, but it's really reversed.
Yeah.
In that she escapes, but she's lost everything.
Yeah.
What life is she going to have after this?
Yeah.
Whereas the one that seems like it's the unhappy ending is the happy ending.
Because she's out.
No.
Oh, sorry. Yes. I see what you mean.
The one where she doesn't escape, which is people say is the unhappy ending, is kind of the happy ending because she's gonna die down there.
Yeah.
And she, after going through everything, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of discussion around that.
What's actually, so I'm so glad you remember that because I didn't clock it because it had been such a time since I had watched it. But yeah, the movie that I loved and rewatched so many times is the one where she like has a moment, wakes up, and she's back in the cave, and she hears them kind of like screeching and coming closer, and she's covered in the blood, right? And then it cuts to black. Okay.
But there's a sequel.
There's a sequel. I have not watched it.
So I've seen the sequel.
And?
I like it.
Apparently it's great. They're going back, right?
So what happens in the sequel is that, she does escape. She gets to authorities, she gets help and stuff, and basically nobody believes her, and she's covered in blood, and they're like, where the fuck are your friends? And so she goes back with like a team, with like a cop and a, whatever, to like try to rescue whoever's left or whatever. Similar thing ensues, but Juno's not dead. They find Juno down there.
Interesting.
And then there's like a sacrifice moment, whatever. But, it was good. I liked it because it picks right up.
Well, I was curious,
it's like the next day, right? Or like later that same day or whatever.
Because I think I watched the trailer shortly after last night because I was like, I've never seen the second one. So we watched the trailer and she's like cut up, dark bag circles. Like she's had a shower, but she's still fucked up. So it's literally like you said, the day after. I don't know how I feel about the second one because I'd love to talk theories with you. So, there's a lot of theories online that suggest that Sarah had a mental breakdown and killed all her friends. And this is one of the theories that I wanted to discuss with you because at a certain point, prior to this, there are lots of clues indicating that her attachment to reality isn't necessarily fully grip. Yeah. So she's hearing things, she's seeing things. And again, before I get into this, people who are experiencing hallucinations and mental illness are far more likely to be harmed than the other way around. But the theory says that at a certain point in time when she got stuck, or her first head injury, I think, that the monsters that she was claiming to see were not real, and she found out about Paul and Juno at a certain point, and she like full on snapped and killed all of her friends in a rage. Which is an interesting theory, but it doesn't track for Sarah's character. I do believe that the entire time you're questioning whether or not they're real, or not real, but like, because she's having such a difficult time grasping. There's all the giggling. There's the waking nightmares. We are kind of like, is this real? Because we're following Sarah's perspective most of the time. But there's a pretty popular theory that she is the one who ended up killing everybody.
Yeah, but when the first time we fully see one, it's Holly that sees it.
It's part of her delusion. That from a certain point in the movie, it's all her rationalization of what she is believing what has happened, and she's the one who killed everybody. But I like the idea of her questioning herself the entire time because of her trauma, her hallucinations, her like very loose grip on reality because she has lost so much. But then in some way she finds her will to survive. And that to me is more of an important theory out of all of this, or the main take out of all of this, is that she lost everything outside of the cave. Inside of the cave, she continues to feel helpless until that certain point where she carries up, right? She's in that dual wield, like full on berserk mode. And you kind of didn't really feel like she was living her life a little bit up until that point. But at that point, she chooses to live and to survive and fight for it. Mm-hmm. I like that version.
Yeah. I mean, I also like I feel like unless the director said, this is what I meant for it.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, I'm believing what they give me.
Yeah.
Like
not
how I see it. Not
Reddit theory.
You know what I mean? It's like, that's nice. There's also like theories about other shit where it's like The Simpsons or something and everyone's been dead the whole time or whatever.
Right.
And it's just like, that sucks. You know what I mean?
Why do we have to take it there?
That sucks. Right? So that's kind of, it's like, sure, but it's less fun.
I'm having a weird flashback.
Huh.
In the original ending where she wakes up back in the cave, isn't there her daughter's there with her with the birthday cake?
Yeah.
Yeah, that just came to me.
Yeah.
So she's still like not fully
and she's
reality.
just like lying there and it's kind of like, oh, this is it.
This is
like, I think it's a bit of her daughter's there to like
help her through it.
Yeah, carry her through. But I don't know. That's how I feel. It's like, that's interesting. People are very creative, but I don't like that. That's like not.
Yeah. I like the idea of her choosing to fight.
That,
yeah.
Well, that's not an idea.
No, that's
true.
Obvious in the movie.
Yeah, versus like, she snaps. She's a crazy woman. She snaps and kills everybody.
Yeah.
That sucks. I fucking love this movie. I think something we didn't mention at all and is that it's an entirely female cast.
Yep.
That's one of a kind in its own way.
And it shows, conflict in a female dynamic group.
Yeah.
It shows love and respect and loyalty and friendship in these relationships. We get to see a really beautiful dynamic between an older sister and a younger sister. We just get to see feminine
There's the
fierceness.
mentorship piece. These are all like literally incredibly strong women, incredibly capable women. They're doctors. They're, leaders,
survivors of a terrible life ending.
And something about this I like because the director's a man, and when he was first writing the script, he said it was caricatures because it wasn't it for him in the storytelling. He didn't feel that he had a story that he wanted to tell about this incident,
this cave situation.
Choosing to make the characters all female, that was like just something different, something to showcase, these female relationships and stuff. In so doing, he's like, I don't have great insight into that. So at the beginning, it was very caricature-ish, but he didn't want it to be. He spoke with a lot of women, like his female friends and stuff, and got a lot of insight into like real dynamics. And then from that, once they had the cast together, they had to do courses together before they started filming, right? Because it's like they're actually
the skill.
Skill. They're actually doing this stuff. So for it to look real and be fluid and be natural, they had to do weeks of these courses and stuff for climbing and shit. And in this pre-production time, he really encouraged them to create their characters together, to fill out the characters, to talk about their backstory,
the connections,
to create these real, like, these histories of these characters and
unspoken
that they've had that's unspoken. But in encouraging that, it like really created these like very real, these are real women.
And that's the scariest part, I think, out of all of this, is the relatability of seeing yourself in that group. Like, and before I kind of like dive into that piece, I think it's so refreshing to have, not necessarily a horror movie, but a movie in which women get together to do these really extreme type sports that are typically coded as masculine bro only spaces. And I think it's really rad to see the strength, not only physically, but the mental, emotional strength that goes into a lot of these sports. And I think, would it be as good if it was all dudes? I don't know. But the fact that you had just described all that I hadn't known about, the realness makes it so scary because of how relatable and real it is.
Yeah.
The psychological nature of it.
I think that's part of why this movie's really stood the test of time. Is because of that. Because we don't remember that other cave movie that came out at the same time.
I don't think I've seen it.
We don't remember it in the same way. This is unique, and it's got that realness factor again that a big budget couldn't give you.
No.
There's so many elements that seem like an upper hand that we wouldn't have this movie if it would have had all of that stuff. And I think that's really, and originally I guess it was supposed to be mixed gender cast, and then
different vibe,
like,
just a different vibe, right?
Yeah. And yeah, exactly, different vibe. And I also feel like if that were the case, then the female characters wouldn't have gotten the care that they did. Wouldn't have gotten the, because
the rounding it out.
I feel like how to say, talking about the caricatures and stuff, like it's so impactful to see real women, characters that feel real, because we so rarely see female characters that feel real.
Yeah, agreed.
That are realistic, that aren't caricatures, right?
Well, there's two levels of discomfort in this movie. And we touched upon it as we've been going through the script, but like the obvious discomfort and threat is the perpetrator, the ghoulies, the crawlers. That's the real obvious threat. But what was really happening under the surface with these people is the fractured relationships, the mistrust, the trauma, the unsaid hurt and resentment, and all of this real human scary stuff bubbling underneath the surface, all of this, while they're going through this like incredibly traumatic fight for their lives. I think that double edge to this movie is what made it. Not only were they real, but the relationship dynamics that they were going through, the sisters fighting for their lives and fighting for each other. That's a real scary thing to imagine doing. Losing the trust and the loyalty of a good friend that you thought you had once at one time. That is a really scary thing. It's like you said, he did his due diligence. He wanted a story. He wanted it to be told this way, but he didn't want to do it in some, fake surface layer trope way.
I think this is like also it's a good example of like a really good ally, where it's like, what's the best thing that an ally can do?
Talk to the people who
Listen.
it's about. Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, he was in this position and he didn't have to do that to create a movie, but he chose to do it because he wanted to do it in a way that felt authentic and that showcased the realistic like light. Right?
Did the second movie have that? Was it directed by the same person?
I don't know that much about it.
Yeah.
I don't know that much because I was just doing my deep dive. I know it was like a few years later that they did it.
I don't think I'm going to watch it. I'm going to keep the first one and the sanctity of that closed story as is. I believe it's good.
It's good. I mean, it's a sequel. Right? It's never going to capture it the same way.
No.
But it's good. Yeah. I'll watch the sequel again for sure. 'Cause it's like, I like these monsters, this scary, like that works for me. So it's like, yeah, I'll watch another one. Fuck.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But it's not the same.
No.
And
it's the perfect kind of horror because at the end of the day you can say, I'm never doing that.
No,
I'm never
gonna be in
I'm
that
not
situation.
in this situation. No,
Something else that I wanted to talk about, because we had actually texted about it a little bit a couple weeks ago, I was watching some horror movie and it clicked for me. I was like, that grief, the grieving element. And like so often, cause I texted you how I just had that note, like realization that, oh, I feel like almost every single horror movie centers around someone who's experienced like a deep loss and is
was it
dealing with grief. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know that I ever fully like clicked that before. And it's like using a horror movie as a metaphor for grief or whatever. And like finding strength and shit. I get that. But a lot of times it can feel exploitative or like person who's dealing with loss or a person who's grieving is weak. Like they're a target because they are weak.
Oh, because it was the spooky nature of this one character you were talking about. Because she had lost someone in that way, she was vulnerable to particular attacks.
And there's this, and I was just like, oh, sometimes what I'm trying to say is that this was an example of the main characters experiencing grief and they are finding strength and they're finding that will to live, but it also doesn't feel exploitative. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is happening to them because they're weak. But I see a lot in horror movies. It's like, oh, the evil thing attaches to you because you're experiencing loss and you're sad. Yeah. And that's fucked up. Yeah. That's really fucked up.
What message is that saying? It's like you're more likely to have bad things happen to you because you're going through this.
And that's what I said in the text. I was like, for once I want to see a horror movie where their life is, everything's going right. Yeah. And there was kind of an element and some of those women, like they were fine. Yeah.
Going in
they were
as
thriving.
Neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting take because I think there's this baseline of vulnerability with the character like that. And you following a main character and knowing, say, that they've gone through loss and grief in that way, you feel this deep connection to this person to root for them in a different way. But like you said, they're also sometimes funneled through this channel where they get targeted for that or they're being taken advantage of in that way because of their vulnerability.
All of that to say that the way that these themes are handled in this movie,
this particular movie,
it's like this is correct.
Well, they didn't, you know, they didn't belabor the fact that it was a car accident. There were no flashbacks other than the fact that it was very specific, tailored moments that, you know, indicated her unwellness, right? It wasn't a romanticized version of it. It wasn't a blown out of proportion version of it. It was a real experience of grief and trauma impacting someone's life and choices as they move forward in this movie and this story without bastardizing it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really well done. So, how do you want to rate this movie?
I just want to say, sometimes I have thoughts and I try to get them out and I say a lot of like likes and ums and, you know, like that.
Human.
And then you like perfectly and succinctly express what I'm feeling and trying to explain.
You know why though? I went to school for that.
Yeah.
It's fair. Literally my job and what I do every day.
That's fair.
But when I try to articulate myself, that's another story. There's likes and ums and whatnot. So.
Okay. I don't know. I have no fucking idea.
Because the obvious answer to this question, would you go
no.
caving?
Is no.
Yeah. Would you, let's see.
But you know what I would do is go on a girls trip to that little cabin and get drunk.
Absolutely toasted.
Yeah.
100%. In fact, I think we're doing that. Not this weekend. Is it this coming weekend?
Next weekend.
So would I go into that cabin with you and have a wonderful time and get my matching set PJs on? 100%.
Yeah.
Are we going caving the next day? No. You know what we are doing? We're going to a crystal beach.
That sounds great. Sleeping in, crystal beach.
Sky? Seeing the sky?
We're staring at the sky.
Number
all
one
day.
priority
We're
right
laying
there.
on the beach and staring at the sky.
We're
grateful we're above ground.
Yeah, we're gonna thank the sky every once in a while this weekend and then get silly, make some mud pies, go to the crystal beach, and maybe watch a scary movie or something.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Okay, so I solemnly swear I'm never going caving. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. Same.
That's how I rate the movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Out of respect. Deep respect.
Deep respect.
Deep.
Yeah.
Deep like a cave.
Oh, favorite character.
Ooh. Well, Beth is number one. She's like ride or die, right? And unfortunately she died. I think the sister duo too
Yeah.
is really hard. It's so difficult because I like them all for different reasons. Even Juno's character, I hated her, but she was a good
Complex.
fucking character.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it was like one of the slimy ghoulies. Just trying to live his best life.
It was the ghoulie with the bob, with the long
Yes.
bob.
Serving
Yeah.
looks underground. She's given all of that greasy hair look, the
Yeah.
shining light it deserves.
It's really in right now though, that like
That
wet
slick.
look.
It's the ghoulie look. You know what? You want to have your ghoulie summer? Get a bob.
Hot ghoulie summer.
Hot ghoulie summer. You know, don't shower for months to prepare for hot
Probably
ghoulie summer.
ever, yeah.
Well,
Just roll
given up.
around in some cave slime.
And you know what? You will, you're going to have, the stars will align. You can't see them though, because you're underground. But they will be there.
Yeah. 1,000,000%. That's
Oh.
so funny.
Okay, so I think it's time for you to pick your movie. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I'm shaking the hat.
I'm bouncing out of my hand. Let's see.
Oh my god, I keep hitting my face with the microphone.
I don't know if you've seen that.
I have heard about this, but I have never seen
Really?
this.
That's so... You're gonna love it.
Oh my god, and
It's
the
so
one
good.
character came up from watching that other movie that shall not be named because it didn't make the air because of sound issues.
Oh yes, yeah. Main
Yes.
character, yeah. Mm-hmm. You're gonna love it. It's
I'm
so good.
so excited.
Yay. Don't worry, guys. Next week vibe is going to be
A little different.
a little different. Not that this vibe wasn't great.
No.
2 weeks in a row of this, I couldn't handle it.
We
So
need
next week's
a
gonna be-
little, what did I call it? Light airness, but you're levity. You need some levity.
Yeah. Oh, see, I can do it too.
Yeah.
All right.
I made up words, and then you give me the right ones.
We were talking about before, remember how we were like, oh, we need to have like a tagline or something.
Mm.
Well, when I edit, I'm listening back to the episodes and stuff. I've figured out what our tagline has become.
What is it?
Love you, bye!
Love you, bye. So,
Okay.
oh no, not yet, because we need to do our spiel.
Oh, fuck. I'm like, okay, peace.
If you would like to hear us share,
Fuck, we didn't.
do we have
didn't
one?
get any, did
That's
we?
okay. I didn't get any either.
No, okay.
If you would like to share with us your favorite movie and you want to hear us talk about it on the pod, please feel free to send us a little blurb either through Instagram, New Friends Cinema, DM me, or newfriendscinema@gmail.com, and we'd happily read it on the pod. Please feel free to do that.
Somebody send us something. Yeah, because it's cute, but
It's
we
fun and
can't do
silly.
it if we don't get any.
Hell
So.
yeah. If you'd like to get in touch with us, please feel free to do so at Instagram, My New Friend Cinema, and Gmail. I did the opposite.
Why did you say My New Friend Cinema?
My New Friend Cinema? Because you know what it is? I keep blending My Favorite Murder.
Oh,
Because it's
Big Dreams.
Well, Big Dreams, but it's got the same New Friend Cinema.
Yeah.
My Favorite Murder. So it's,
That's so funny. At New Friend Cinema.
you can cut that earlier, or newfriendcinema@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
We're the same everywhere.
Everywhere, anytime.
Any place.
Underground? No.
No.
Only
Bad
above ground.
reception. Yeah.
Too many ghoulies.
Can't download.
Okay.
All right. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye. Testing. Testies.